The DNC gives a hard pass on a climate debate. To filibust or not to filibust? Uber and Lyft drivers take their protests to the roads. I'm Krystal Ball, in for Jamal Simmons, and this is why you should care. So just when we thought we would get a whole debate focused on climate crisis, the DNC officially says hard pass, for now at least. The Democratic National Committee rejected a proposal to host a debate on the climate crisis exclusively, despite the fact that most of the 2020 Democratic presidential candidates said that they were in favor of the idea. Now, it's possible the issue might come up again. The vote yesterday was just a panel of committee members. The full committee has its general session tomorrow. But yesterday's vote was telling. Among those who encouraged the rejection, Senior advisor to presidential hopeful Joe Biden, Simone Sanders, reportedly urged the DNC to vote no on a climate crisis debate. Climate change is obviously a huge issue for many Democratic voters, not to mention for the future of the planet. In a recent CBS News poll, almost 8 in 10 Democratic voters in 18 early primary and caucus states said that climate change was very important in the 2020 election. So here's why you should care. This is just another example that the DNC might be out of step with its own party. And it's not the only issue taken up with the DNC recently. Presidential hopeful and Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard urged the Democratic National Committee to be fair and transparent when it comes to candidates meeting debate requirements. This, as Gabbard has qualified in just 2 certified polls before the 3rd debates next month. Candidates have to receive at least 2% in 4 DNC certified polls in order to qualify for the 3rd and the 4th Democratic debates. But the DNC has not publicly released the criteria needed for a poll to be certified. One could certainly argue that this field of Democratic candidates have introduced some of the newest and boldest policy proposals that we've seen in quite some time. Elizabeth Warren, of course, wants to tax the ultra-wealthy. Cory Booker is seeking broad measures on gun control, and Bernie Sanders is taking it to student loan debt by using money from Wall Street. So let's imagine for a minute that the Democratic Party gets its wish in 2020 and wins back the White House. Let's get really wild and say Democrats take back the Senate as well. There is one thing that would make every bold progressive idea that was introduced a completely moot point: the filibuster. Now, for those who may need a recap, the filibuster is a political tactic that allows a minority of 40 senators to completely shut down a piece of legislation. It was created originally with the idea that parties might work together and reach a compromise on issues they disagreed on. But in today's political climate, the filibuster has been weaponized so that absolutely nothing can pass without a super majority. Okay, done with the civics lesson. Recently, Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell wrote an op-ed warning Democrats not to get rid of the filibuster. That was interesting. It's been quite a riddle for some of the 2020 presidential hopefuls. Only a few candidates have actually come out and said outright that they would get rid of the filibuster, like, for example, Senator Elizabeth Warren. So why should you care? The filibuster essentially allows the minority group to rule the majority. So if we want change in issues like immigration, the filibuster can stop any legislation that might bring reform. Gun control, climate change, the filibuster can stop all of that in its tracks. And canceling student loan debt, forget about it. Some Democrats are worried that they might do themselves more harm than good by getting rid of the filibuster, because even if they do win back control of the Senate in 2020, it's rare that one party really stays in control for very long. They may need the filibuster in their toolbox if they ever become the minority party again. Others argue that our Congress is so divided, it will be impossible to get anything passed anyway. For what it's worth, my own view is we have to get rid of the filibuster if we want any meaningful change, and time is of the essence. So stay tuned. Uber and Lyft drivers in California are taking their protests to the open road. They are looking for better wages and workers' rights. On Monday, the advocacy-based organizations Gig Workers Rising and Mobile Workers Alliance announced that over 200 drivers in more than 75 cars plan to drive from Southern California up through San Francisco and on to Sacramento in a caravan protest. So what do they want? For starters, a drivers' union. Now, for the California state legislature to pass a bill known as AB 5. Now, AB 5 would provide drivers with basic labor protections for the first time and also make it harder for companies to label their workers as outside contractors instead of employees. This is something that companies like Uber and Lyft love to do because it allows them to skirt U.S. labor law, saving them tons of money in the process. And while the companies do well, it deprives their workers of rights that they are entitled to. So here's why you should care. California's new bill could be a huge step toward changing how the gig economy works in the U.S., and it could help kickstart workers' rights on a federal level.
Thanks for watching Hill TV on YouTube. Be sure to click subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we post new videos, and head to thehill.com for all the latest political news.